guys, welcome to today's simple tulip tutorial. We're going to use two round brushes today, a number 6 and a number 10, along with our simple paint kit. Now to begin, you want to spray down your paint with water so it gets nice and ready to work with. And then wet down your color that you want to use. I'm using pink here. And get it nice and smooth, mix the water into the paint really well so it's ready to work with. Now to create the petals, you're going to start by just putting clear water down. And I am doing this roughly in the area where I want 3 main petals to go. And so you kind of just lay that water in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you get your color on your brush. Notice I kind of wiped it off on my palette after I picked it up on the brush. And then add it into that clear area. Now what I'm doing is defining each petal by pulling the color down along the left side of the petal. So I get the color on the brush and add it to the edge of each petal by pulling it down. So you can darken the color some by going back over top. I like to leave a little bit of clear showing. I think it gives it a little bit more depth and contrast. But then you can go in and define the shape a little bit more and add in a little more color if you want to. Or here I'm actually picking up some color, which means I've dried off my brush, and wherever I put it into the paint, it's going to lift it up like a sponge. And that just adds a little more highlight to those areas. Now, while that's drying, I'm going to mix up a green. I wanted to just add a little yellow into my green, and then I can paint the stem. So getting that color on your brush, you pull it down in a line with medium pressure. I like to give a little bend to the stem to make it look more alive. And you can see here I'm adding a little more water into that color. And now I'm going to do the petals. Sorry, not the petals, the leaves. And what I'm doing here is starting with a light pressure on my brush, and then as I come around, I'm pressing harder to create the thicker part of the leaf. And once I do that, I can go back in and add a little more color into it. So I'm mixing a little more green there, and then I'll do the second leaf. Again, it's a light touch, and you press and pull as you bring the leaf down into the stem. Thickening it up there a little bit. And I'm also going to lengthen that stem out at the bottom just a touch. You can add a little more green in there as you want to. And while the leaves are still wet, that color will blend nicely. Once those leaves are nice and dry, we can start to add a little detail. So I'm switching to my number 6 brush, getting a little dark green on there, and then adding in a thin line for the veins of the leaf. Now whenever I get color on my brush when I'm doing detailed work, I make sure and wipe it off really well to get the drips off. That helps you get a nice, thin, precise line. And I'm just darkening it up there a little bit, pulling it down. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Starting at the end, I'm actually cleaning up the end of that leaf first, and then I'll come around with that vein for the inside. Now we're going to add a bit of detail to the petals, so I'm going to switch to my paint color. Again, always wipe off that brush really well, get it to a nice point. And I'm just going to add a few lines in here. You can kind of add them wherever you like. I just think it makes it look a little more realistic to have a few thin lines inside of the petals. And then I'm actually going to do a bit of shading here, so it's still basically creating a line, but I just press down a little bit harder to really define the edge of that petal. So I'm doing that along both edges, darkening it up a bit. And then I'll come along that original line I made, and I'm just adding a little more pink. And notice I press harder with my brush here to color in that area a bit more. And then if you get a bit of clear water on your brush, you can use it as a blending tool to soften the edge of that darker color area. And that just gives it a bit of depth and is a nice way to shade an element. So that is about it. You can just clean up the edges a bit if you like, but otherwise you are done with your tulip. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and have fun painting on your own. Enjoy!